Grandia II is a turn-based RPG originally released by Game Arts back in 2000 on the Dreamcast. Grandia II was a follow-up to the very successful and well-loved Grandia. While the games don't share any story elements in common, they are extremely similar in atmosphere and gameplay. Returning to this game after many years of not playing it was surprisingly awesome for me. I definitely had a high level of nostalgia for this game, and I was very pleased to find that it held up over the years. Yep, way back in the day I rented a Dreamcast, repeatedly I might add, just so I could play through this game. Oh man, remember when you could rent stuff? The story of the game starts out extremely simple. The main character, Ryudo, is what's called a geohound, essentially a mercenary that wanders the world taking on whatever jobs are available for money. At the start of the game, Ryudo is hired to protect a nun named Elena while she travels to a temple to perform a sealing ceremony. During this ceremony, something goes horribly wrong. All of the other nuns are killed and Ryudo barely manages to get Elena out of there alive. As it turns out, she was possessed by the Wings of Velmar, a piece of an evil god that threatens to return and destroy the world. What's more is that these wings belong to a mysterious woman named Millennia, who will show up in Elena's place at random. The story really boils down to big bad evil threatens to destroy the world and our heroes must unite to stop it, and while there are some plot twists thrown in here and there, it's pretty standard stuff for the most part. While this might turn some people off, I actually found it really refreshing. It's been a trend for RPGs to be rather complicated and overly serious lately, so I found it really nice to play something that, while having its serious moments, is overall upbeat, colorful, and fun. Grandia II evokes similar feelings that a game like Lunar does, and it's a feeling that has been sorely lacking in many games. Sure, it's cheesy as hell, but I love it like that. Of course, what I truly love in this game are the characters. All of them are incredibly likable, and whenever I had the option to sit and talk with them, I took it. I loved hearing their backstories, and their banter was great fun. They never really get too complicated, but there was effort put into giving them depth, which was not always common with this type of game back then. The gameplay is very similar to how the original Grandia functioned. Walking around on the map is pretty typical, but has visible enemies instead of random encounters, which is very nice. Random encounters, especially for games this old, tend to be incredibly frequent and intensely annoying. Maps are different from the first Grandia, given that they have been made much smaller and more linear than before. Grandia had sprawling maps with all sorts of different branches, but Grandia II really cuts that down. This is certainly a shame for those who love to explore, but for people like me who just want to get on with it, this is a godsend. Instead of having gauges underneath each character that increase a la Final Fantasy, Grandia features a track in the corner of the screen. Each enemy and character has an icon on this track and will move up it at different speeds. What really changes this up is the fact that it is possible for anyone to have their turn interrupted and be sent back a ways on the track. It's also possible for characters to be blocked, and to miss or even be unable to attack because of their positioning. This can be a little frustrating when your characters are constantly having their attacks thwarted, but it makes the battles feel a lot more active and engaging than your typical RPG. Of course, it would have been nice if you could have taken direct control of your character's movements. Besides that little nitpick, there's actually one big fat downside in battles, and that shows up when you use items and abilities. Back in the day, developers didn't give you the ability to skip their fancy CGI, so you have to watch them over and over and over. Grandia II doesn't have anything as lengthy as the summons in Final Fantasy VIII, but having to watch the same animations over and over and over is really tiresome. Like, yeah, okay, that animation looks really cool, but come on, you guys, give me a skip button. The upswing is that you have the ability to put the game on autopilot and let the computer fight battles for you. I only use this feature when fighting standard enemies that didn't give me any problems, but being able to do this makes the game feel a lot quicker. Kind of funny that people joked about Final Fantasy XII playing itself, but nobody really called that out for games like Grandia II. Game Arts really knew what it was doing as far as sound goes, that's for sure. The soundtrack is absolutely worth listening to on its own, not to mention all of the extra soundtracks that were produced for it. Not only is the soundtrack amazing, but the sound effects are pretty fitting as well. Now there are a couple that really annoy me. These goddamn trees, dude. But everything else is perfect. This is a heavily anime-inspired game through and through, and the sound follows that to a T. A nice little bonus to the Anniversary Edition is the ability to play the game using the Japanese voice acting. The English voices are competent enough, and they're the ones I originally played with, but I have to say I really love the Japanese ones the most. They just fit the characters so well. Sadly, there's a downside to using the Japanese voices. Some scenes have obviously been retooled to fit the English text better, so sometimes the Japanese lags behind or even gets cut off. It's not too severe, and I found it happened more in the latter part of the game, but it was annoying. And it certainly reflected the fact that the Anniversary Edition didn't have any extra effort put into it. Finally, we come to the visuals, and the HD retooling makes them look pretty snazzy. But of course, you shouldn't be expecting an actual remake here. The characters still have no mouths, the textures are low res, and the FMVs are still compressed. But the graphics have truly never looked better. Having everything look so bright, clear, and running in widescreen really does make a difference. There are some glitches here and there though. There were a couple times where things that were supposed to be hidden were visible for a short while, weird clipping would occur, and small things of that nature, but it was also minor I almost forgot to even mention it. I had a wonderful time playing Grandia II again, and it remains in my list of favorite games ever. The HD port looks great, and while there are some glitches here and there, I thought it was the best the game has ever looked and played. But even if you can only play this on an older console, it's still absolutely worth it. Grandia II is an absolute gem, and every RPG fan should give it a try.